Hi everyone, Sajid Amit here, and welcome to my review of the Hifiman HE6SE V2. This is the Adorama edition. So what's interesting about this headphone is that its Msrp is around $1,800. So not cheap by any means, but as is the case with a lot of Adorama products, you can have this at a superb discount, a crazy price of $700, $699 if I'm not mistaken. So most people who own this headphone, of course, know about this deal, and it does go on discount often, so people do buy this at that price. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's just jump right in and talk about its aesthetics, build-in comfort, its sound, and I'll end with some comparisons with other headphones. In terms of aesthetics, it's a pretty, I think, a nice looking headphone because I like this sort of black and navy blue aesthetics. I have the honeycomb grill mod, which I think adds a lot of character to what it looks like, and I love, being able to see through the grills and the sort of golden shade that's going on here with the outer part of the drivers and all that. And so it's a nice looking headphone. I think comfort wise, it's not going to win a lot of prizes because it's okay, it's passable. Some people have complained about getting hot spots because of the single headband system. No comfort strap as such, the way an Aria has, or even the Hifiman HE6SE does. So it doesn't have that comfort strap, and so some people have complained about this sort of hot spot on the top of their head. I've been fine so far. The clamp is okay. It's there is some clamp, but overall I feel like also because of this minimum cup swivel, and there is a certain rigidity to the construction that I do feel like is somewhat stifling, but it's overall passable, I think, for comfort. And in terms of other aspects of looks, it's not, built with extremely premium materials. So you might experience the odd creak and all that. And it's not built like, let's say, a Focal Clear or, any other headphone in this sort of price class. It is a Hifiman headphone, and if you have been in the hobby for a bit of time, you know what to expect from Hifiman headphones. Like a lot of Hifiman headphones are supremely well tuned, as is the case with this, but you do tend to compromise a bit on build quality. There aren't any major QC issues with my unit, and in case there are QC issues, of course, I do think it's worth keeping in mind that Hifiman has really stepped up in terms of his customer service over the past several years. So one or two cases of this headphone failing on consumers, and not many, I've just come across one or two in several pages of discussions on the headphones.com thread and the HeadFi thread. I know for a fact that these customers have been taken care of by Hifiman, so that's just, to talk about aesthetics, build, and comfort and get that out of the way. Now to talk about sound, so tonally it's, in terms of what it graphs like, it's not extremely dissimilar to a lot of other Hifiman headphones. So it has a flat bass response, it has spin gain, a bit of a dip around 2K in the upper mids that Hifiman headphones often display. And air frequencies are there. So some Hifiman headphones have more air frequencies, like HE6SE over here, and some have less. Some Hifiman headphones have more mid-treble energy like an Aria does. So those are the sort of tuning differences I perceive among Hifiman headphones, but it does sound like Hifiman headphone for the most part. However, where it does depart significantly is its sense of punch and slam. So that might be important to you, especially if you like modern genres like I do. I also like classical and acoustic and vocal based genres. But for modern genres, I do think that this is the best Hifiman headphone you can get right now. Of course, not with regard to technical performance, because it does not necessarily hold its own with higher end Hifiman headphones, but purely in terms of tonality, if you want a headphone that can punch and slam really hard, this is very different. This is a significant departure from other Hifiman headphones. So those of you who know the history of Hifiman will know that Hifiman previously used to have headphones that used to punch and slam very hard. As a matter of fact, this is based off the HE6 OG, which is a sort of a legendary headphone by now, not available anymore. So that headphone I've had the great fortune of trying, and that does punch and slam very hard. So this is close to that level of punch and slam. So it's not exactly the HE6 OG level of punch and slam, especially the 6-screw version. However, I do want to say that this is very, very ample. So to give you examples, I think it slams and punches very hard depending on how you amplify this. So I would, for example, suggest a minimum of a Diablo. A Diablo doesn't completely do this justice if you are trying to eke out the last bit of technical performance. For example, on the Diablo, this will sound slightly narrower, and there will be a slight lack of resolution on this compared to other full-size, more heavy-duty amps. But it does slam quite a bit off the Diablo, so that's just worth keeping in mind. So this is a slammy headphone. So I've also tried this off a headphone amplifier that I really like, which is the iFi Pro iCan Signature, and this will get its own review. So this headphone amplifier, this is the newer version of the iFi Pro iCan. Of this amplifier, the HE6SE V2 slams very hard, and I use a bit of bass boost, which is great because, see, there is a difference, like I've talked about and other reviewers have talked about, between being a bassy headphone and being a punchy headphone. So this is not necessarily the bassiest of headphones. This is a punchy headphone. And I think two tracks that sort of lay bare these differences is, one is Bruce Dickinson's Dark Side of the Aquarius, a lovely album, which I love, a lovely song, I'm sorry, which I love from the album Accident of Birth. And if you play that, and that track has a lot of punch and slam. So this will slam very hard on that track. But then I've tried other headphones which have a lot of bass energy in terms of how the frequency response looks like, but doesn't have a lot of punch and slam. So that track doesn't sound as punchy on headphones that may have bass but don't have punch and slam. So a Focal Utopia, which looks like on the graph like it has a sub bass roll off, will still punch and slam pretty darn hard on that track. Dark Side of Aquarius by Bruce Dickinson from the album Accident of Birth. On the other hand, I like playing this sort of speed metal track called Replica by this speed/thrash metal band called Fear Factory, and that song requires a lot of bass because to sort of, you know, bring out the double bass drums and the enormity of the bass in that on that track. So for that track, I feel like this falters a bit, whereas something like a Focal Clear sounds just more well-rounded in bass. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's a very dynamic headphone. Even if the graph does not reveal this, you do want to juice this right to bring about its full spectrum of its dynamic energy. Soundstage wise, which I touched upon just a little bit, it's not the widest Hifiman headphone. So for instance, the Aria is significantly wider and deeper with a lot more space around instruments. The Aria, I think in general, is a more refined headphone than the HE6SE V2 and has more resolution as well. The Aria, however, is slightly on the softer side of transients, so this does come off as faster, punchier, more aggressive. All that being said, a lot of headphones which are well known to be punchy and slammy and aggressive are often not headphones that you associate with great mid-range or natural mid-range timbre. I do want to say this is unique because this has some of the best mid-range timbre, some of the best vocal timbre I've heard on a headphone at this price range. So by that I mean, honestly, all the way from $700 to $1,800. This has enormously natural vocal timbre, much more so than a Focal Clear. I think the vocals sound as sweet as on the Aria and sweeter than on the HD800S, and comes close but doesn't surpass or doesn't even match an Autor, which is amazing for vocals. But resolution wise, I think this sort of beats an Autor. I'm talking about an Autor OG. This is a Verite closed, which does scale a lot on a high impedance OTL amplifier and does do wonders when it's amped right. However, if you're not amping it from an OTL, I feel like these two have a similar level of resolution. So to round up my discussion on sound, it's a fairly resolving headphone, but for $1,800, I do think there are headphones that are more resolving. So I do think that an HD800S is more resolving, an Aria is more resolving. But if you get this at the discounted price of $700, this is more resolving than any headphone in that price category, any headphone. Only because nowadays you can have a Focal Clear OG for around $800 to $900. So this might be slightly more resolving than an HE6SE V2. And but this soundstage width is better than on the Clears. It's not as wide as an Aria. And punch and slam is class leading. This is like a baby Abyss, honestly. And timbrally, like I said, it's beautiful. Sometimes you do feel like lead guitar is a bit metallic, so there's a bit of that. But overall, vocal timbre is just magnificent. So that's it for sound, guys. So I feel like if you want to know who this is for someone who wants a headphone that punches hard but also does vocals well. This is for someone who doesn't want to spend more than $1,000 and wants a headphone that can do like play well with every track or every genre. And if you especially want to stay away from the softness of transients and overall the softness of the presentation of an aria, a lot of other HE1000 series headphones from Hifiman, this is a nice departure. And especially if you don't want to buy a used HE6 because that might just fall apart on you, given the fact that an old HE6 is going to be quite old and will not be covered by Hifiman warranty, this is then a very good option. So that's it, guys. I do think this is a very good headphone for the price of $700, and this does have my high recommendation. Check this out, and if you like this video, give this video a like and follow my channel if you like my work, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.